Do you know how every One Piece character would react if Luffy's execution got announced? Yeah, the whole world would literally shake from the shock of that insane news. And the Straw Hats, they would absolutely lose it. Like Zoro, Luffy's right-hand man, he would be raging. He'd instantly take over the Sunny and head straight for the execution site to save his captain. Although, let's be real, Jinbe's gonna have to take the wheel pretty quick or they'll just get lost. Anyway, Zoro will also be pissed at Luffy for doing something so reckless as getting caught. Still, Zoro would literally make peace with dying, as the only thing he cares about is saving his captain. I mean, seriously, Zoro will literally do anything for his captain, even die for him, which we all clearly saw when he took all of Luffy's pain from Kuma, which honestly should have killed him. So basically, Zoro will cut through the whole world if that's what it takes to save his captain. But someone who's going to be even angrier than Zoro, that's Nami. But she's not just going to be angry, she's literally going to break down in tears and cry her eyes out, because Luffy means everything to her. But at the same time, she'll be screaming about what an idiot captain he is for getting himself caught in the first place. Still, Nami and Luffy have been through everything together, and she'll never forget how much he's done for her. So once she wipes away the tears, she's gonna be raging and load up Zeus with tons of thunderclouds. So when they reach Luffy's execution site, she's gonna be ready to blast them all with her ridiculous thunder power. Moving on to Sanji, and this guy would lose it. He would literally start crying and blame himself for not being there for his captain when he got caught. But then, he'd of course light a cigarette, heat up his leg, and get ready to take on every single Marine to save his captain. Because Sanji will never forget how Luffy fought for him at Whole Cake Island. Like, he literally almost starved to death just to show Sanji that he's nothing without his cook. So now, Sanji would feel like it's his turn to be there to save his captain, and he wouldn't let anything stand in his way. But what about Usopp? He wouldn't even believe it at first. He's literally going to be yelling at the crew that it just has to be a lie, as there's no way Luffy could ever get caught. But once he realizes it's real, he would totally freak out. He'd panic and say it's impossible to save Luffy, as they would literally have to fight every single Marine in the world. But after getting smacked in the head, Usopp would just break down in tears, as Luffy isn't just his captain, he's his literal brother and the guy who gave him the courage to actually chase his dream of becoming a brave warrior of the sea. And that's when Usopp's gonna man up and take his rightful position as the captain of the crew, being ready to fight anyone to save his best friend. Moving on, we've got Chopper, and he's obviously gonna be crying his eyes out. Yeah, I know Luffy sometimes literally calls him emergency food and even tries to eat him, but these two are still best friends for life. Like, Chopper cares so much about Luffy that he literally jumped into the ocean to try and save him, even though he ended up having to be dragged out himself. Do I even need to say more than that? Chopper will obviously do anything to save his captain, so he'd turn into his Monster Point form and try to smash him to freedom. Next up, we gotta talk about Nico Robin, because Luffy's execution would absolutely destroy her. I mean, Luffy's the reason Robin even has a will to live, and he gave her a place, a family, and the kind of friends she's always dreamed of having. So when she hears about Luffy's execution, she wouldn't just sit there and cry, she'd get real serious and just tell the crew that she refuses to lose him. So she'd get ready to fight, and she'd literally die for him, as the only thing she cares about is keeping him safe. And Jinbe, he also only cares about keeping Luffy safe, so he'd be ready to tear the sea apart just to save him. Because ever since they first met, Jinbe has done everything to keep Luffy alive. Like at Marineford, he literally risked his life to shield him, and after the war, he saved him mentally by helping him cope with his brother's death. And now, Jinbe sees Luffy as the person who's gonna bring justice to the world, liberate the fishmen, and help them get to the surface. So Jinbe would absolutely give his life to Luffy, as he's sworn his loyalty to him and will never let him down. Two other Straw Hats who would never let Luffy down are Franky and Brook. Both of them would be absolutely shocked by the news, and Brook would be in tears. He would remember how he already lost his former crew and captain, and he'd swear to never lose another captain again. And Franky, he'd be fired up. Why? Well, he'd be ready to roll out with General Franky and blast through anything to save his captain. Because both Franky and Brook love and admire their captain so much, so they will always have Luffy's back, no matter what. So, okay, the Straw Hats will all be raging and going crazy to defend Luffy with their lives. But you know who'd be even angrier? Boa Hancock. Yeah, we all know she's head over heels in love with Luffy, so the second she hears about his execution, she won't even say a word. She's just gonna be shaking with rage and instantly take all the Kuja and set sail to save him. I mean, we've already seen what she'll do for him, like kicking Smoker in the face and fighting the Marines during the Marineford War, even though she was supposed to be on the Marines' side. But the second Luffy got hurt, she switched sides without a second thought. Or when she smuggled him to Impel Down, she literally risked everything for him. So yeah, she could be facing every single Marine in the world, and she'd still try to save her beloved Luffy. But on Hancock's way to Luffy's execution, we're also going to see the red-haired pirates and Shanks, as he's just as angry. I mean, Shanks sees Luffy as Roger's true successor, so he's obviously going to do whatever it takes to stop the execution, using his insane haki and power to free him. Like, don't forget that he already saved Luffy once and lost an arm in the process, so now he will put his life on the line to save him. But talking about Shanks, which is basically Luffy's father figure, we gotta talk about Luffy's actual dad, Monkey D. Dragon. Because yeah, he would actually try to save him, but not for the reason you think. Sure, Dragon swooped in and saved him at Logtown, but that was child's play for him. But now that he's captured by the world government, Dragon would use his son's execution to launch a full-scale attack and finally bring them down with the Revolutionary Army. So yeah, Dragon isn't winning the Father of the Year award. But talking about Luffy's dad, we gotta talk about Luffy's brother, Sabo, who would literally break. Yeah, he's gonna have a panic attack, as he's instantly gonna remember how Ace also basically got executed, and he'd think to himself that he just can't lose another brother. So he's literally gonna set sail on his own without telling anyone, and he'd easily give his own life to save his brother no matter what, which is exactly what he promised Ace, to always look after Luffy. Moving on, we've got Law, and he'd get pissed at Luffy for doing something so stupid as getting caught. Like we've seen over and over how Law always yells at Luffy for being a total idiot. But yeah, he'd remember the time Luffy saved his life from Doflamingo, so he'd think he owed it to Luffy to help him. Plus, they are really close friends, even though Law would never admit it. So even though he'd think it's a pain in his ass, he'd take the crew and do anything to save his friend. But someone who honestly wouldn't care about Luffy's execution is Eustace Kid. Yeah, he would seriously even be excited that Luffy was about to die. Why though? Because both Luffy and Kid have the same goal, to find the One Piece and become the king of the pirates. So if Luffy were executed, that's one less rival standing in his way to reach his dream. So while everyone else sails to save Luffy, Kid's heading full speed towards the One Piece instead. But talking about people sailing to save Luffy, one of those guys is absolutely Bartolomeo. You'd see his ship from miles away because of the huge fountain coming off of it. Yeah, that's just Barto crying his eyes out. But he's not only going to be crying, he's also going to be raging. I mean, Barto absolutely loves Luffy and worships him like a god. Like remember back in Dressrosa when some random guy started talking bad about Luffy? Yeah, Barto did not take that well. He literally just grabbed the guy's tongue. But if you thought that was bad, in the manga, he straight up stabbed it. So yeah, now you know just how far Barto's willing to go for his god. But alright, now we gotta go to Wano, because here, Momonosuke, Kinemon, Yamato, and the Scabbards would panic. Momo would obviously be crying at first, but then he'd pull himself together, gather everyone, and give a big speech about saving Luffy. And of course, everyone would agree, because they all owe everything to him. Like Luffy literally freed Wano from Kaido and Orochi's cruel rule. So to them, he's a true hero. So Wano is ready to go to war for Luffy and especially Yamato, because she already lost Ace and she can't lose Luffy too. Jumping from Wano to Fuchsia Village, and this place would be a fountain of tears. Makino would be crying her heart out because she absolutely loves Luffy and just wants him to be safe and happy. But Dan? Oh, she'd be completely unconsolable. She'd be screaming, "Don't you dare take another son from me." And even though she's a mountain bandit living in the mountains, she and the bandits would straight up steal a boat and sail out to save Luffy themselves. Because no way she'd let him die, no matter what. Oh, and she's absolutely gonna punch Garp in the face for letting this happen in the first place. Leaving Fuchsia Village and the East Blue behind, we're heading straight to the New World and Zoe. Because Carrot, the new leader of the Mokomo Dukedom, is furious. She can't believe Luffy's been captured. So she turns to the Minks and asks if they're ready to go save him. And of course, they all yell, "Yeah!" But before Carrot can even start planning their rescue, Zunesha's already on the move, heading straight to Luffy, because he's not gonna let Joy Boy die a second time. And someone else who would never let Luffy die is Vivi. She'd be shocked seeing his execution, sure, but she wouldn't be sitting there crying. Nope. She'd instantly grab Karoo and set sail, because she'd think it's her turn to save him, just like he saved her back in Alabasta. as Luffy gave her the strength to keep fighting, defeated Crocodile, and saved her entire kingdom. So she'd drop everything and head straight to save him, even if it meant risking her life and throwing away her duties as a princess. Plus, she's basically a Straw Hat herself, so she will never let her captain be executed, as she's absolutely gonna look at her X tattoo and rally to his side. Which is exactly what the Straw Hats' Grand Fleet would do. Yeah, I know I already talked about Barto, but the rest of the Straw Hats' Grand Fleet is already on their way to save him. Like Cavendish, he would be furious. But he'd also see this as his chance to once again become the famous Cavendish, so he'll act like he's the only Prince Charming who can save Luffy. Although, yeah, Hakuba would absolutely be the one who does all the work. Now, Hadruddin and the Giants are charging in as well, because Giants do not play around when it comes to loyalty. And Leo and the Tontadas, they would be there in a heartbeat too. Like, remember that the Tontadas worship Luffy for helping them liberate Dressrosa and save their princess, so they'd go all out. And Orlumbus, Idio, and the Fighting Alliance are all super ready to fight the Marines for their true captain. Next up, we gotta talk about Marco. And even though he's technically retired, he'd instantly turn into his Phoenix form and fly straight to Luffy. Why? Because Marco would say to himself, I couldn't save Ace, but I'll make damn sure I save his brother. Like he already saved his life during the Marineford War, and then he showed up again in Wano to help the crew take down Kaido and liberate Wano. And now, Marco sees Luffy as a worthy successor to Ace's legacy, and believes Luffy has what it takes to carry on his will and lead the next pirate era. So he's gonna do everything to try and save him. Now, we have to talk about Rayleigh, as he'd actually start crying. Yeah, this badass man would not be able to hold in his tears, as Rayleigh cares about Luffy so much, and he sees him as someone truly worthy of wearing Roger's straw hat. And when Rayleigh imagines in his head Luffy being on the execution stand, he would literally get PTSD, because he's gonna be reminded of his old captain and best friend Roger being executed. But here's the difference. Roger chose to die, Luffy didn't. So Rayleigh would say to himself that he won't let Luffy die, and he'd just literally start swimming to get to Luffy and try to save him with his insane haki. But alright, we've talked about all pirates, so now it's time we talk about some of the Marines. And when Garp finds out his grandson has been captured and is about to be executed, he's gonna break. Yeah, we already saw what happened when Ace was about to be executed, as Garp cried, froze, and literally didn't know what to do. And this time with Luffy, it'd be even worse. I mean, he's obviously gonna be raging at Luffy for being so reckless and getting caught, and would absolutely want to punch him in the head. But even though Garp loves Luffy with all of his heart, as Garp is literally known as the hero of the Marines, he just can't stop this execution, even if he wants to. Luffy is still a pirate, and Garp is still a Marine. But let's be real, when he sees that Luffy is about to be executed, he's probably gonna stop it at the last second, as he just can't see his grandson die. So, yeah, he's gonna go against the Marines and give his own life to save him. But what about Koby? Well, he's gonna be bawling his eyes out. He sees Luffy as one of his best friends, as he was the one who saved him from the Alvida pirates and inspired him to chase his dream of becoming a Marine. So even though they ended up on opposite sides, they've always been very close friends and truly respect each other. So Koby really doesn't want Luffy to die, and he would definitely try to talk the world government out of executing him. But when they say no, he'd have no choice but to accept it, even though he'd be super depressed about it. However, Akainu would absolutely love seeing Luffy executed. Yeah, he hates Luffy for being a chaotic pirate and ruining the justice in the world, and he wants nothing more than to turn him into a donut, just like he did with his brother. So when he sees that Luffy has been captured, he will literally celebrate with the Marines and just laugh for a whole day straight. He's literally also gonna send a personal invite to the other Straw Hats, as he wants all the Straw Hats to die. So you can expect Akainu waiting for them with his magma attacks, ready to take down all the pirates coming to save Luffy. But Kizaru, he honestly wouldn't even care all that much. I mean, he actually respects Luffy for his insane strength, and he even said he was impressed by the man Luffy's become. He also tried to avoid fighting him on Egghead, literally kindly asking Luffy to stay out of the conflict. And when Luffy was down, Kizaru gave him food so he could recover and not get killed by the 5 elders. So, does that mean Kizaru likes Luffy? Well, not exactly. He only helped Luffy so he'd be strong enough to save Bonnie. So, if Luffy's execution ever got announced, Kizaru would just accept it and follow orders no matter what. But someone who would not accept Luffy being executed, that's Fujitora. And that's because Fujitora actually likes Luffy. Yeah, Fujitora saw Luffy back in Dressrosa take down Doflamingo and free an entire country. And that's when he said that people like Luffy should rise up because they bring the kind of real justice the Marines fail to deliver. And even though he chased Luffy out of Dressrosa, Fujitora smiled as he heard the entire island cheering Luffy's name. He even admitted he wanted to see Luffy's face, as he wanted to see the face of this super kind person. So if Luffy's execution was announced, it would not only break Fujitora's heart, he'd also be furious at the world government, as he knows Luffy's a good man who fights for freedom and protects the weak. Still, he won't try to free Luffy, but he'd never accept it. Now, we've actually got two characters left we need to talk about, and that's Blackbeard and Buggy. And Blackbeard, he would just laugh when he sees that Luffy is about to be executed. Yeah, Blackbeard sees Luffy as a rival that needs to be crushed in order to get his hands on the One Piece, so if he's executed, he'd be super happy. And Buggy, yeah, he honestly wouldn't care that Luffy is about to be executed, as he really doesn't like him. But yeah, you already know he's somehow gonna end up at Luffy's execution, and probably livestream the whole war while screaming and running around while having no idea what's actually happening. So yeah, basically half the world is gonna show up at Luffy's execution. How would you react if Luffy's execution was announced? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and watch this video next.